Hello friends, and welcome to this new, I wouldn't say tutorial, but just helpful video to help you make the Tunisian Simple Stitch without any curling or all that nonsense. So to start, I have here some worsted weight yarn. Now this looks a little bulkier than worsted weight, but the label said worsted weight, so we're just going to go with that. And the trick I found with the Tunisian Simple Stitch is that you've got to go up quite a few sizes on your hook size. So here I have an 8mm, and that is 2 sizes larger than the recommended size. So it's the recommended size on this yarn is 5mm to 6mm. So it's anywhere from 2 to 3 sizes larger. So start there. So if you're working and your Tunisian Simple Stitch is curling, stop and then go up a needle size and see if that helps. So I'm going to start here with a chain. So I'm doing my slip stitch. So I've got my slip stitch here, and I'm going to chain like 18 stitches. All right, so now I've got 18 stitches here chained up, and this is the front. I'm looking at the V's. If I turn it to the back, then I'm looking at bumps. So you see those bumps? That's what I'm going to want to work into. So I'm going to slide my hook. That first one can be a little tricky, but I'm going to slide my hook into that bump, and I'm going to pull up a loop and leave that loop on the hook. I'm going to go into the next bump and do the same thing. And I'm going to work all the way down, just working into those bumps. Oh, can be a little fidgety. Now the other trick that I've learned with Tunisian crochet is that you want to keep a very loose tension. So I'm barely holding the yarn here. So you can see I've got it just casually draped on my fingers. I'm not holding any kind of tension on it. And then spread your stitches out as you work too on your hook. All right, oh my goodness. The last bump is tricky too. The first and the last one is very tricky. All right, here we go. So this is what we have so far. We've got all of our loops here on the hook, and now we're ready to do our backwards pass. So the backwards pass, we're going to want to keep a very loose tension once again. Like that's the key to this whole thing. Keep a very loose tension. And to start, we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to chain one. So this is a chain one right here. So our chain one is going to raise that work up to the next row. So now you'll notice here that this is a little bit higher than the rest of these, and that's what we want because we're working a new row. Now we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Now as you're pulling through this stuff, don't yank at it, right? So if you're finding that you're having a hard time pulling your stitches through, just scooch them up on the needle or the hook. And then yarn over very lightly. Look at the tension I'm holding. There's no pulling whatsoever. It's very light. It's very loose. Hold on. There we go. My yarn is balled up on the ball, on the cake. So it's just very light. At no point should you be trying to pull things through, or if you're struggling, your tension's probably too tight. Oh, just got an order. I apologize for the printer sound. Okay, what did we get an order for? Let's see. We got an order for a cowboy jeans and a sweater weather. Fantastic. Look at you, Denise, treating yourself today. Love it. All right, so here we go on to the next round. And now the next round is going to be a lot easier. So now you can see this is what we have so far. So we've got bars with some gaps in between. So let's look a little closer here. So I'm going to zoom in, and you'll notice that here this loop is coming from this stitch. So technically our first stitch is worked. So we're going to skip this one. Now the next stitch that we're going to be working is going to be this one. And all of our stitches are going to be pretty prominent, right? You can see those pretty well. Now we're going to have two parts to this stitch. We have a front leg, and then we have a back leg that's here in the back. What we want to do for this stitch pattern is work in the front leg only. So I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to go into the front leg here. Now my hook is only under that front leg. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop. Once again, keeping the tension very loose. You don't want things tight. Don't pull, don't yank, don't do any of that crazy stuff. We're just going to keep it loosey-goosey. So now we're going to go into the next stitch here. We're going to work it in the same manner. So we're going to go into that front leg only, yarn over, pull up a loop. Then we're going to go into the next stitch. Front leg only, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now it helps me sometimes when I'm working this to kind of keep my fingers on the next stitch. So you'll see here that my thumb's on the next stitch, and then I move it to the next stitch. And you can feel it because it's like a little bump. So then I just continuously keep moving down the length of fabric, pulling up a loop on those legs. Make sure to stop every once in a while and spread your work out a little bit, and then continue on. All right, so we're getting towards the end of the work, and this is where some people kind of have a little bit of trouble, and this stitch at the end always gets missed. So if you find that you're coming up short on your stitch count and you can't figure out where you're missing stitches, check the end here, because it's very easy to get to this point here and say, oh, okay, well, I'm done. Now I'm going to work my last finished stitch or finishing stitch, and that's not true. You've got one more leg here. So if you stretch your fabric out a little bit, then you'll see, all right, you've got the loop coming from this one. So we have our little leg here, and then you have another leg that tends to try to hide at the end of that work. But if you stretch the work out a little, you can see there that leg is. So let's go ahead and work that one. Now we're at the end of our work. So we have no more legs left here to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this a little and take a look here. So we can see that we have a V going on at the top right here, and that's where we want to work into. So we want to slide our hook underneath both of those legs. So we want to capture that entire V of that last stitch, and then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And now we're going to do our backwards pass. We're going to yarn over, chain one, yarn over, pull through two. and then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 all the way back. All right, there we go. So this is what we have so far. Now this row is going to be super easy because you can definitely see where all those stitches are, this pass. So let's go ahead and work this pass, and then when we get to the end, I'll show you how to do that finishing stitch one more time. So once again, we've already got a loop here on this hook or on this stitch, so we're going to skip this one and we're going to work into the next one. So let's go ahead and insert our hook underneath that leg, pull up a loop, continue all the way down, working those loops into those front legs only. And once you get familiar with this and you can kind of get used to where you need to go into, you'll just zoom through this stitch pattern. It's so quick and easy. All right, so now we're at the end here, making sure to work that last loop. And now we're at the end, and then we need to do our finishing stitch. So we're going to turn our work, and there's the V that I need to get into. I'm just going to pop my hook under there, pull up a loop. And now let's do our return pass. Chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end. I'm very paranoid about whether I'm in frame or not because I've filmed this 4 times, and every time in some portion of the video I'm out of frame. So I'm super paranoid about it. All right, so let's take a look here. I'm going to pull this out. Now look, we're starting to get a little bit of curl, right? Now, usually what will happen is this will curl in on itself so much that it makes it difficult to work. Now, we are going to have a little bit of curl at this point because this wants to curl up and the top wants to curl up. But once we work a little bit more fabric here, the curl is going to disappear. So let's go ahead and work up some more. So skipping that first stitch, starting in the second, I'm pulling up my loops and I'm going all the way down to the end. You can see as you start to work through here, see how that's starting to flatten out right here? All right, working our last stitch under those 2 V's or under that V, and then working our backwards pass. So now what I'm going to do is when I finish this backwards pass, I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm going to work a bunch more of this fabric, and then I'm going to show you exactly how to bind off without having those big gaps at the top of the work. All right, so here's what we have so far. So now if we press it down a little bit, we can see it's going to be just fine. So if we can finger press this and it stays flat, that means the only portions that are curling right now is just a little bit of the ends and a little bit of the top. So I'm gonna work some more fabric and I'll see you in a second. All right, so I've worked up a bit more fabric and I think that's about as big as I want it because I will be using this for a washcloth. And you can see now that the curl has almost completely disappeared. There's still a little bit, of course there's gonna be a little bit, but after blocking and doing all that, it'll be completely gone. So now we've got our top left here to do. And our top, now you can see if we bind off in a normal way, we're going to have these big gaps at the top, and we don't want that. So here's how I do my bind offs. You could always go, instead of going like into both, behind both of those, you can just go in through one and do a slip stitch. So basically working the Tunisian, but you're just doing slip stitches all the way down. That's not going to be as tight as the other one, but it'll be more in line with the pattern. So I've used I've used all of these bind offs in various projects. And that one's a little bit cleaner, but still no gap. So you could always work that one. It depends on what kind of finish you want. This one, honestly, with this stitch pattern looks better. The other ones I've used have been with different stitch patterns, but this one looks really good with this stitch pattern. And you can see there's no curl. No curl. Perfect. And then once you block it and get the little fiddly edges to stay down, then you'll be good to go. That's it. And you know, if you wanted to make something practical with this tutorial, instead of just like, you know, I made this using wool, which is basically not the right type of fiber to use if you're going to be using a washcloth, I would say. I do have these beautiful little cottons that would look fantastic in the stitch pattern and would make lovely, lovely little washcloths. These call for a 4 millimeter, so I would go up to a 6 millimeter. I would go anywhere from a 6 to a 6.5 to work this cotton, and it would look beautiful. And I have so many colors. Oh my goodness. Let me show you the colors that I have in these. So I have these beautiful light blues. I have these reds. I have pink. I have, my goodness, I have so many. I have these grays. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work me up some in the gray and the red, like the maroonish color. Let's see, let me get these back to where they go. And then maybe a few in this, because I like those neutral colors. So I'm going to work me up some washcloths using this pattern. And I do have these in stock in my shop, these little cottons. And I think, let me check the price real quick. So these are like $4.50 each. And you can get probably 2 washcloths out of them. So that's a good deal. And considering that they're handmade washcloths. So I'm going to be working some up in these colors. All right, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. If this helped you get your Tunisian Simple Stitch down without curling and no more gaps at the top, then hit the like button, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. All right, thank you. Bye.